Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael J. Long, Long. I probably had this is probably the first video that I'm making in a very long time. But anyways, I just want to bring forth an update of my views. I am a libertarian. That means I believe in freedom in both personal and economic matters, and I'm socially tolerant and physically conservative. I mean, at least, although I can't say that I 100% agree with the Libertarian Party and its philosophy on everything, but I agree with the Libertarian Party and the Libertarians enough to where I can say that I am libertarian. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with them on everything, but of course that's what makes the world go around. Is just because someone might be a libertarian doesn't mean they're all going to think in the same exact way on every single issue to a point where it's robotic. But I bought a summary of my views so all can see I'm going to read these platforms that are these viewpoints that I have that I've organized and somewhat categorized so that you might have an understanding of where I stand on each of these important topics, and then I'll discuss it more in detail. So, for the first part, I'm going to put for the first part, taxes. The first thing we need to do is audit the Federal Reserves to find out what they are doing with our money, what they are spending the money on, so we can refund the American people for wrongdoing. And at some point, we need to abolish the Federal Reserves, the income tax, and the IRS, and replace the IRS's duties for what it was intended for. Congress. They're the ones that are supposed to collect and levy taxes in addition to making laws. So, for in addition to being a lawmaker. Second, we need to replace the income tax with a standardary tax system. And I'm not advocating for the the fair tax, because I think that's going to even though it replaces the IRS, it essentially brings forth one or two or three more government agencies that to monitor it that we don't need. Immigration. Undocumented immigrants that cross our borders illegally should be deported and or legalized on a case-by-case basis. Children and adults that are born to parents that come here through no fault of their own should be shielded from deportation, and more time to be spent on accepting legal applicants that want to come here legally. Government reform. We need to reduce the federal government to its mere constitutional limitations and or foundation by abolishing every single federal government agency with the exception of Medicaid, Medicare, CHIPS, Customs, ICE, and Border Patrol. We need to privatize the National Weather Service, the federal prisons and jails, and the mail service. Healthcare. We need to get rid of the Patient Protection and Affordable Healthcare Act, otherwise known as Obamacare, and completely abolish it and replace it with nothing, and return the healthcare industry to the free market. Trade. We need to withdraw from the TPP, NAFTA, and GAFTA, and CAT, OSHA, and all other international free trade agreements and entanglements that threaten our national sovereignty. Free trade should be determined by the free market, both in this country and internationally. Now, where I get off, where we need Medicaid, Medicare, CHIPS, Social Security, is for people predominantly with disabilities um, that either need it permanently or temporarily till they get on their feet. We're talking about people such as autism, Down syndrome, those type of people, and other people with physical disabilities as well as mental disabilities. I don't think we should go wholeheartedly and abolish the Social Security like maybe the Libertarian Party might want to do that. But like I said before, each libertarian has their own views on it, and it varies. But as far as foreign policy is concerned, we need to withdraw from the United Nations and NATO, and our government needs to stop providing foreign aid, nation building around the world, and our government needs to stop providing funds to the EU. Furthermore, we need to withdraw our military from Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and all over the world, and end all the wars we're in. So this is a summary of these are a summary of my views, which I originally transcribed it for the Capital District Libertarian Party, and it goes on to say as amendments and proposals, but I forgot that the state convention was April the 30th. Anyways, freedom in economic matters, as it says for that we should deregulate the free market as much as possible, which I agree with, and empower the free market to create services for people with autism and other cognitive disabilities, as well as those with physical disabilities, which I did not mention on here. And allow the free market to determine the best sources of energy for this country instead of having like a Department of Energy and all that. And housing should also be determined by the free market and state governments alike, county governments, local governments, so housing, energy, labor, and those kinds of stuff. And the free market should determine the best sources of energy for this country and let major corporations and for-profit businesses to either succeed or fail based on their own merits, and allow the free market to work itself out. The benefits, of course, would most likely include non-profit and for-profit businesses, both big and small alike, small companies and big companies, corporations, unions, associations, such as a vast array of benefits, and all businesses should be allowed to determine wages as opposed to government, and be allowed to decide for themselves whether they're going to pay for their employees' health care insurance and how much they pay for their employees, and what rules and regulations they set for their employees, and therefore we will have more choices and fewer waiting lists, etc. Education. I don't know if my time's up yet, but education, I would definitely say that we need to get rid of Common Core and abolish the Department of Education and all other government-run unions. Furthermore, we need to get rid of the national labor unions, and if we're going to have any government control in the schools, it should be handled by the local, state, and county governments, the local school boards, and not by the federal governments. Other than that, education should, for the most part, be managed by private associations and by the free market, as well as parents who know their children best. Most importantly, we need to get the federal government out of the way of education so that our students can thrive and be in the best possible manner. We also should need to get rid of zero tolerance and allow the teachers to be armed when teaching, and our kids furthermore. It should so that they can protect our kids and all that. Furthermore, it should be up to the free market and local school boards to determine what programs and intervention programs they're going to have and whether to hire security and campus police. So I have part 2 coming up for property rights and land management and freedom in both social and personal matters. I also believe in what is called personal responsibility. But for property rights and land management, I would say all land currently held or owned by the federal government should be given back to the people. That includes the American Rangers and the Native American Indian tribes. The feds only have ownership over these lands via contract to state governments, which by default is invalid in accordance to the U.S. Constitution, which does not give the federal government the authority to own land or yet alone take land from other people, like they have been doing for the longest time. All private property should be respected in that they should not be taken by force, and all private property is thereby owned by whoever owns the land, and the area should never be claimed by any level of government or organization. Also, each business owner and property rights owner has the right in terms of whether they're going to allow and what they're going to allow, in terms of whether or not they're going to allow same-sex marriage to take place on their properties or not, as it is property. They also have the right to allow any such activities they wish to allow, and they have the right to deny any activity on their property that they wish to deny. That would include same-sex marriage, which I also support. I support everyone's right to decide for themselves who they want to marry, regardless of gender, regardless of whether they're transgender, maybe gay or lesbian. So that I don't really care about. So again, freedom in social and personal matters. As the saying goes, libertarianism is the right to live your life as you see fit, to decide for yourself what you choose to put in your own body and how you raise your children, and the right to do what you want, when you want, how you want, as long as you don't impose force on others, and as long as you don't verbally or physically threaten or harm others. It goes without saying that same-sex marriage and drugs, as well as drugs, should be legalized and regulated accordingly in according to marijuana, including marijuana, and that people should decide for themselves who they're going to marry, and that all people have the right to go to college in an open environment without the colleges holding their hand, and all the people have the right to decide and or being forced by the government. People also have the right to bear arms and to open carry, even in public. People have the right to have guns and assault rifles, machine guns, etc. Likewise, to have the right people should have the right to decide what their kids are going to wear in school, and what they're taught, and ultimately what school their children decide, what their kids are going to wear in school, and what they're taught, and ultimately what their school children go to, what school their children go to, what light bulbs they choose what to buy, and where they choose to live, where they choose to go to vote. Moreover, people should also have the right to collect rainwater. If they choose to live on the streets, that's their right, and ultimately should have the same opportunity to live in a big mansion. And people should have the right to criticize government and its voters or supporters for any wrongdoing. People should have the right to collect raw milk, government and its voters and or supporters. You know, government and its voter supporters for any wrongdoing. You have the right to criticize them, as I've mentioned, and where they choose to buy their food, and where they choose to do their where they choose where and what they choose to do with their money, which I would even add includes prostitution at this point. If you decide to engage in such activities, that's not everybody else's problem now, is it? Also, we need to end all the federal government spy programs and get rid of the following laws that include the NDAA, the Patriot Act, and all other federal spying programs that are internationally and nationally threatening our sovereignty and our privacy, our civil liberties, our rights. We need to stop spying on hardworking and law-abiding citizens of this country. So unless the police have a warrant and or arrest warrant to search someone, or yet alone probable cause, they should never enter someone's home or be able to wiretap or spy on them. So basically, this goes without saying that, again, I support these values of non-aggression using a libertarian form of agreements. So again, gun rights, that's a very big issue that's come up in recent years. Abortion, I'm kind of against it because, it deals with the unborn, as it pertains to the unborn, rather. But anyways, I'm still kind of against it. But, give or take with immigration, I think we should be somewhat more lenient than we are. But we can't say, okay, you know what? Everybody can come and do whatever they want. Because we have to keep in mind there's violent criminals that also come in, like people that murder, rape, rob, steal, and all that. Those are the people we don't need. Those are the people that we should give them a court trial and have them processed for deportation upon their conviction. But other than that, anybody else that comes in here, as long as we got the space for them, we should process them for legal residency, not citizenship. Then if they want citizenship, well, they're on their own with that, right? So anyways, I'm Michael Long, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.